I'm obviously new at this. I just spent the last 10 minutes talking about what happened in our game last night, and then realized that I had neglected to start the recording. Really good. I can hear my daughter making fun of me already. All right, so wanted to give everyone an update on this ongoing journey to develop role playing and becoming an actual role player and not just a role player in name only. And I thought it would be a good time to do that since last night was our in-person game. We game on Tuesday nights. We've been doing that for many years. And we just started a new adventure. I hesitate to use the word campaign because I'm not sure how long it'll go. But we're using a weird frontiers setting. So this is a Western setting. It's reminiscent of Deadlands. I don't know if anyone knows that particular game, but it's like that. It's a alternate history, Wild West, with fantastic elements, and really like the setting. I think the setting is fun. It's got a lot of potential. The players really like it too. They find that it's easier to visualize what the world is in a Wild West setting. So I thought we would talk a little bit about what happened last night, and I would share what worked well and a few areas of ongoing concern, some takeaways from the game. So, all right. Before I get into what happened last night, I thought I would share how I first broached this topic of role playing with my group. This is a group that's been meeting for about 16 years now, and the components, the composition of the group, has changed from time to time, and there's been people that move away or drop in and drop out as life happens. But we do have a couple players that have been members of the group for that whole time. Older in general, so I would say 30 to 55, 65, kind of that age range. But we've recently added some new, like an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old. They probably won't be in the group for very long. I anticipate that their life is going to take them off to school and other things. So what I did is I told my players that I was concerned that I had been taking away player agency. And the way I was taking away player agency is that I would describe where the characters are. I would move characters around. You walk over here. You go over there. You arrive at the cafe. All of those things. I was actually manipulating their characters. And I was also manipulating character reactions. So I would say, you get a sense of foreboding, or this one here, you get angry when you see this. And I told them, that's not my job. I don't control where you are in the world. You control that. I describe the world to you, and I may influence your characters or attempt to influence your characters through my own characters, or non-player character NPCs, what have you. I think I agree with Shauner. The non-player character moniker, because it's associated with a non-thinking character or a superficial, two-dimensional character. I think it's better to think of it as a game. What's his name? I always forget his name. It's Ken Jameson, I believe, is his name. It's definitely Jameson. I keep forgetting his first name. Last name Jameson. He wrote a book called Game Mastering. And in that book, he outlined that he doesn't call them NPCs. He calls them game master characters. And it's not that I'm running... Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to run my own PC. We've heard the horror stories of the game master that self-inserts some character that's way more powerful than the other players. It always takes the limelight. It's just there to make sure that the party stays on the rails. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about more believable characters. not ones that are there to just steal the show, so to speak. So I told this to my players, and I said, I really want you to have more control over your character. And they, I, as expected, no one was really upset about that. I want to give you more agency. Oh, okay. Why not? So that was good. And then I kind of dropped the bombshell on them, which was, please understand, me, myself, as game master, I'm not there in the world. I describe the world to you, but if you have questions, your character will have to find some way of answering those questions within the context of the world. If you're just asking me, it's essentially like you're throwing up a prayer and trying to get some kind of direct revelation from the game master on that's going to tell you directly this, that, or the other. And so I said, if you ask me a question that's out of character, I will not answer it. And I say that, of course, in practice, I've got so many years of answering players' questions that it's hard to forget that I've said, or it's hard to remember, excuse me, that I've committed not to answer out of character questions. Thankfully, I do have a couple players that are good at reminding me. They kind of look at me like, "Well, are you going to answer that?" And I'm getting better at not answering. So, and the players are getting better at not asking. So that's how I initially positioned this. I said, we're going to try this from now on. I really want you to stay in character as much as you can. And we're going to try not to come out of character. If you have questions, you'll have to try to answer them within the context of the world, not just throw up, questions to the sky and expect me to answer them down. So from on high. Okay. So last night we started this new setting, this new Wild West Western, fantasy Western setting. And I asked the players I explained that we're going to focus on a couple things for our first session. It's a brand new thing, brand new characters. I said, I asked all of the players to prepare a backstory for their characters. Now, I have been guilty. I remember when I was first introduced to role playing, I was just so hooked into the game. I think my poor buddy that was running the game at the time, I probably wrote some 10-page monstrosity of fan fiction and sent it to him, all about, why I was a shadow dancer and what this and that, and all of the backstory about every little thing. And it was probably horribly written and incredibly tedious to read. I just shudder. I mean, it would probably have made all the what's the current cringe fan fiction? Who knows? It would be on par with that, if not worse. And because I have some older players, especially my oldest player, the oldest player at the table, I think I gotta say he's 60 something. I don't know exactly how old he is. He's very much young at heart, but he is in his 60s, and he's new. He's new I think we recruited him about a year and a half ago. He had never played any role-playing game before. And I didn't want him to feel like he had to go and write like some homework assignment, writing something. So I said, look, what I'm really looking for in your backstory is I'm looking for the goals of your character. Why is it that they're here? Why is it that they're adventuring? Why is it that they're in this particular profession, or this particular, what makes them tick? You don't have to give me their whole lineage back to Adam. I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking for their goals. So, and everyone did that, and there were some great variety in the backstories that were provided, and most of them weren't written. I think only one of our young guys, he had written out maybe a 3-page or so backstory. He had really gotten into it, And I thought that was great. It was better than what I had done in the past. But most of them was just a few sentences. Having that goal, I think, was helpful for the players to actually role play those characters, to understand why the characters were doing what they were doing. There was a goal behind what they were doing. So I think that was good. I think there's more perhaps to do with that on my side. I want to make sure that when I'm introducing one of my characters, that I have in my head, what is the goal of this character? So I introduce the mayor of the town. The mayor of the town walks up to them and starts talking to one or two of them. What's the mayor's goal? What's he looking to do? Like, what's his? And I think I need to practice that a little more myself. Okay, so first of all, backstory. This is something, again, I'm stealing. I'm just blatantly stealing all of these things to try from others. So I take no credit at all for any of these things. I just want to be clear on that. I'm not trying to be. I don't put myself out there as some kind of sage on this. I'm experimenting. The other thing we did that I wanted to talk about was I explained to the players beforehand. I said, really, we're going to sit down here. We're going to role play. We're going to try to have this role playing game for 2.5 to 3 hours. Most movies you'll watch are maybe 2.5 to 3 hours. Well, 3 hours at least, it seems these days, as there's no more editing. But if most movies are that kind of window of time, it kind of falls to exactly what our game session is. Wouldn't it be nice if every week we essentially at the end of the session, we can look back and say that there was a movie that was created, that there was a cinematic experience. And in order to get to that, I proposed that we try to get combat moving faster. Now, I have some players that love combat. It's an important part of the game. They love it. I like it too. I really enjoy it. It should be this the climax of the scene. It can be this climactic, I think that's a word, experience, and it ought to be. But if it takes an hour for us to run 10 rounds of combat, it's just, I get really enthusiastic when I'm playing. I find that if my enthusiasm is high, then I can help kind of bring player enthusiasm high. But I can't keep enthusiastic after an hour of painstakingly slow combat that really, in real terms, if we were to take a step out and say, let's just run this as a movie, how much time did we spend in combat? Well, like a minute, 2 minutes? But it took us an hour of playtime. And that's just not cinematic. It's just, but I'm not trying to hand wave combat either. I've heard some online criticize the focus on role playing is just eschewing combat, just hand wave combat completely. And I don't want to do that. So what we did is I said to my players that we're not going to roll initiative. Instead, I'll just quickly go through your job is to tell us where you are, so that everyone else in the scene, all the other players, know where you are and what you're doing. And then I'll quickly go through, and we're going to just go quick, as smooth as we can. So, the goal is to try to keep it moving quickly, as close to real time as we can get. It's not going to be real time because we have to roll the dice and we have to consult the results and all of that, but we're going to go very quickly through it and that worked really well. Really, I feel like that helped us role play combat better when we didn't have to bog down into, oh boy, and then, okay, it just can, combat I think is it's going to be an ongoing experiment to try new things to try to get role play into combat. Okay, areas that we still that improvement has been slow and that it requires more effort. We're still falling into out of character questions. Well, I think one of the issue that we had last night is that one of our real keen role players, he's really bought into this. I've created I've almost created a monster. He's fantastic. He's really likes being in character and talking in character, and not acting. He's not an actor. No one at the table. I shouldn't say that. I think the 18-year-old has a bit of he puts on a bit of an accent, but it's fine. It's not. We're not trying to be voice actors. None of us are voice actors. I can make my daughter cringe so hard by trying to imitate her accents, English accent, Scottish accent, whatever. I just can't. I've tried. I got to work on that. I guess I can't do it. So we're not acting, but he is good at staying in character, and he couldn't make it last night. And so not having him there, that certainly did have an impact on the rest of the group. And I think the takeaway there is it's easier perhaps to turn around a game if you can get a couple cheerleaders, I guess, like people that are going to cheerlead the role playing efforts. They're really behind it. They're just excited for it. And while others are dropping out of character, they're still in character. And what he's really good at is he's good at talking to the other players in character. And that's maybe one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we've experienced, is that it's so hard for players to talk to each other in character. It seems like it's harder for them to do that than it is to talk to my characters still in character. I don't know. Maybe you've experienced that too. I don't know. Maybe perhaps there's some worry about being silly or what have you, or again, I'm not sure, but anyway, he wasn't there, so that was a bit of a challenge. And the other thing the last thing I'll talk about is something else that seemed to break immersion every time it came up, and it just really stood out to me for whatever reason. And that is the game terms, the terms of the lexicon of the game itself. So the you know what I mean, like the gaming terms. When those came up, it just kind of shattered the scene. I'm not sure how to explain that. I got to think more about how to describe this, because I'm not sure if I'm getting the point across. In each role-playing game, we've tried several, they'll have certain things like I have advantage, or I have this, or I'm flanking, or what are some of the other ones? I'm going to do a double move, or a 5-foot step, or I'm going to do a dash, or I'm going to do this. So they describe in the game terms what their character is doing, instead of in just normal language. I don't know if there's a solution for that. I don't know. We'll probably revisit this in future sessions as we get better at staying in character. The question is, well, how do we communicate what we're doing in the game mechanics without breaking world immersion? I hope I'm clear on that. I don't know. I've rambled on now. It's almost 20 minutes. I hope this has been entertaining, or maybe you've had experiences similar to what I've described. I'm looking forward to our next in-person game, which will be next Tuesday, and just to see how things keep going, because I'm trying to keep these sessions episodic, like a serial. So you go and you watch this one, and then has an adventure. It builds to a climactic thing that happened, and then there's not really I guess there's a little bit of a denouement, or whatever, that denouement that happens at the end. But I'm not scripting it. I'm not laying out the plot. I'm trying to have it be more just a world for the players to explore. So I think we've made some progress. When I talked to some of the players after the game, I just asked for feedback. How are you enjoying it? Are you having fun? And I'm pleasantly surprised that they're having a great time. I'm having a better time. I find like my prep time is less, and maybe you've experienced that too. So this is the update. This is my second video. I hope to provide more updates in the future, and yeah, if you've made it this far, congratulations, and we'll hopefully hear from you again soon. Thanks for watching.